This is Jim Bryce with my column titled, Who is Filling Biden's Cabinet? I was recently talking to old friend Rick Trader of the Conservative Commandos radio show regarding President Biden's cabinet picks. This caused me to dig in deeper and look into their background. Naturally, they are all filled in by Democrats, just as President Trump's was filled in with Republicans. But there's something else going on. In theory, the cabinet secretaries should be the most qualified people for their jobs, just as in the business world. The idea of appointing someone for political favoritism reeks of nepotism, and quite often it is an impediment to progress. We typically see ambassadorships rewarded to political donors, but cabinet positions are used to run the country, and political rewards would be a serious mistake. In looking over the appointments, some make sense, others are just plain off the wall. It appears Biden has been selecting people based on their race, gender, their far-left ideology, or their work in the Obama administration, 6 in all. It was certainly not for their management skills. As one example, Pete Buttigieg is a young man who only served as mayor of South Bend, Indiana, home of the University of Notre Dame, with a population of 102,000, which is rather small in comparison to most major American cities. Nonetheless, he was appointed Secretary of Transportation, a field in which he has no experience whatsoever. I suspect he was rewarded this for his position on climate control, which he spoke on during his failed campaign for president. Let's look over the list of cabinet appointments and consider their qualifications. Let us also look at the immediate predecessor from the Trump administration. First, for Secretary of Agriculture, we have Tom Vilsack. He's an Obama appointee. He held this position from 2009 to 2017. He is also a former governor of Iowa. From the Trump administration, we have Ed Schaefer, served twice as Agriculture Secretary and is a former governor of North Dakota. For Attorney General, we have Merrick Garland. Garland is best remembered as the Obama pick to replace Antonin Scalia on the Supreme Court, which was not acted on by the Senate. He has been serving as a federal judge on the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, believed to be moderate in most decisions, but leaning slightly left. From the Trump administration, we had William Barr, twice served as Attorney General. For the Department of Commerce, we have Gina Raimondo. Currently, she's the governor of Rhode Island. Her background includes being a venture capitalist. As governor, she cut taxes every year, removed thousands of pages of regulations, raised the state minimum wage to $11.50, and made community colleges tuition-free, a favorite with the far left. However, her approval ratings routinely ranked in the bottom of all governors in the United States. From the Trump administration, we have Wilbur Ross, a successful businessman, named by Bloomberg Markets as one of the 50 most influential people in global finance. For Secretary of Defense, we have Lloyd Austin. Austin is a West Point graduate and served over 40 years in the military. If confirmed, he will be the first black defense secretary. Previously, he was picked as Vice Chief of Staff of the United States Army by Barack Obama. From the Trump administration, we had Mike Esper, also a West Point graduate. Esper joined the U.S. Army and served as an infantry officer with the 101st Airborne Division. He saw action in the Gulf War. Afterwards, he served in the 82nd Airborne and the Army National Guard. For Secretary of Education, we have Miguel Cardona. Cardona serves as the Connecticut Commissioner of Education. He has an extensive background in Connecticut education. The hard issues he faces includes opening schools closed due to COVID-19 and transgender sports. For Trump, we have Acting Secretary Phil Rosenfeld, who has been with the Department of Education since 2005. For Energy Secretary, we have Jennifer Granholm, former governor of Michigan, was a member of the Obama transition team. Granholm is a distinguished adjunct professor of law and public policy at UC Berkeley. No energy experience whatsoever. For Trump, we had Dan Brulette, previously served as the Deputy Secretary of Energy from August 2017 to December 2019. For Health and Human Services, we have Xavier Becerra. He is currently Attorney General of California. He was previously a congressman representing downtown Los Angeles. While in the House, he served as the chair of the House Democrat Caucus from 2013 to 2017. Becerra is perhaps best known as the Attorney General, along with 15 other Democrat-led states, to file a lawsuit against the Trump administration over the president's declaration of a national emergency to fund and build the southern U.S. border, as well as many more lawsuits against the administration. He is far left. From Trump, we have Acting Secretary Norris Cochran, who was part of the Department of Health and Human Services since 2006. For Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, we have Marcia Fudge. Fudge is currently a Democrat member of the House from Ohio. Her background is substantially different than her predecessor, who was Dr. Ben Carson, a pioneer in the field of neurosurgery. He was also a professor of neurosurgery, oncology, plastic surgery, and pediatrics at the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. He is also known for his run for the presidency in 2016. If anything, Dr. Carson was overqualified for his job as HUD Secretary. For the Secretary of Interior, we have Deb Haaland. If confirmed, she will be the first Native American cabinet secretary. She has been very active in Democrat politics, such as speaking against the appointment of Judge Kavanaugh to the U.S. Supreme Court. She also actively supports the Green New Deal and Medicare for All. She is far left. Haaland's appointment is controversial as a group of 15 Republican House members sent a letter to President Biden urging him to withdraw her name, claiming her nomination is, quote, a direct threat to working men and women and a rejection of responsible development of America's natural resources, end quote. Under the Trump administration, we had David Bernhardt, also worked for the Department of the Interior during George W. Bush's presidency. Next, we have the Secretary of Labor, Marty Walsh. Walsh is the current mayor of Boston. He is one of the few cabinet appointments cruising through his confirmation hearing. Walsh has an extensive background in unions, both as a member and as a mayor working with them. For Trump, we had Eugene Scalia, served 1 year as solicitor at the Department of Labor during the George W. Bush administration. He is the son of the late Supreme Court Associate Justice Anton Scalia. Next, we have Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, an Obama appointment serving as Deputy Secretary. Also served in Clinton's State Department and on the National Security Council for then Vice President Biden. From the Trump administration, we have Mike Pompeo, a former CIA director, graduated first in his class as a West Point graduate, also served in the House of Representatives from Kansas. Next, we have Transportation with Pete Buttigieg. Former mayor of South Bend, Indiana, ran for president in 2020. He worked on John Kerry's 2004 presidential campaign as an advisor, policy, and research specialist. No transportation experience, he is far left. Under Trump, we had Elaine Chao, naturalized citizen, married to Senator Mitch McConnell. She has served the Department of Transportation since 1986, particularly in the Maritime Administration. She served as Deputy Transportation Secretary from 1989 to 1991. She was also the longest-serving Secretary of Labor. And finally, as Secretary of the Treasury, we have Janet Yellen. Recently confirmed, she is the first female Treasury Secretary. She has prior experience as the chair of the Council of Economic Advisors and chair of the Federal Reserve under Obama. She comes from academia, where she has taught economics for many years at Harvard and the London School of Economics. From the Trump administration, we have Steve Mnuchin, American investment banker at Goldman Sachs. In conclusion, as with any job, people should be eminently qualified to successfully fulfill a job. But this isn't always the case in Washington, D.C. Unfortunately, the best people are not always available. After all, they would have to sacrifice their business careers in order to serve. So you have to ask the question, are the people selected doing this for love of country? Are there other ulterior motives, such as political recognition and power? As we can see, not all of the candidates here are qualified for their positions. This is like hiring ditch diggers to work in Silicon Valley. Undoubtedly, all will toe the line when it comes to Democrat values and priorities, but will that make for a well-oiled machine to run the country? In all likelihood, when the Biden administration is done, we will have another costly mess to clean up and not a clean and productive handoff. Unfortunately, this is how the American public elects to operate. In the business world, there are two tried and proven tactics to rationalize failure. First, blame your predecessor. And second, reorganize everything, making it difficult to straighten out later on. What we are now witnessing in the Biden administration is both excuses being implemented at warp speed. God help us. Friends, keep the faith. It's Tim Bryce in Palm Harbor, Florida. Follow me on the internet at timbryce.com.